All right, today we're going to talk a little bit about email because it's used so much in the business world and especially in higher education. So if any of you are going on to post-secondary, you will run across email. And if you have any sort of a job where you'll be using a computer, you'll definitely have email. So here's an article that was in the paper at the beginning of the month of October this year about how college generation, so that's your age, you're just a little bit older than your age, they really don't like email. But you still need to use email because that's what many of the professors use. So their students were not finding information, and so they're requiring use of email to be in their classes. A few things about email etiquette. So when you use email, there are some guidelines that you should follow. Use short, specific subject lines so it's real clear to who is receiving the email what the email is about. If it's better to call or meet, then do that. Sometimes a long message is not as good as just talking to the person over the phone or in person. Be brief in your email. Make sure you proofread. You can use spell check and grammar check, but it's still a good idea, especially if it's an important email for a job or something like that, to proofread before you send it. Be careful with reply and reply all. If someone has sent you an email and there are a number of people receiving the same email, you'll see their names in there. If you want to reply to just the person that sent the email, you would use reply. If you accidentally hit reply all, everyone that received that email would see the message, and sometimes that's not a good thing. Remember that email is not private, just like in the acceptable use policy that we went over in Kip's class when you first started here at the ALC. And I mentioned that our email Outlook, the staff, is not private. Your student ones are not private. That's the same in pretty much any company that you would work for. It's the company's property. When you receive an email, respond as quickly as you can. Don't use fancy fonts and emoticons, those little smiley faces and things. Sometimes that's okay if you're writing your family members or someone that you have a really good relationship at work with. But if it's a professional reply to your boss or something, it's best not to use those. And don't use all caps, just like in other programs that you work with. It's considered shouting. Here are some questions I want you to think about, and I'll give you a moment to think of what your answer would be, and then I'll say what the answer would be. Is this email appropriate? You would send your boss a request for some information. Yes, it's an appropriate use of email. You're going to send a funny story about a coworker who messed up about something to someone else in the company. No, that really wouldn't be. You may find people kind of do that, but that's not a good use of company email. Should you email someone if a coworker is upset with you? No, it's probably best to go and talk to that person in person rather than try to do something through email because intention can be misunderstood in written where it won't be when you speak to them in person. Here's some information on email ethics. Don't include anything that would embarrass you or the company. You are representing the company when you are sending an email from the company, so keep that in mind. Don't use for unacceptable private purposes. So if you're going to be selling something on eBay, you wouldn't want to use your company email address for that or to set up an account or something like that. And don't forward or quote email without others' permission. And that can be very serious, like in the legal industry or medical industry or where there's private data. Even at school here, we're told that as employees, we are not to forward school information on without proper permission because it's student data in some cases. So be very careful with that. Here's a few more questions to think about. Is this an ethical use of email? A dumb blonde joke is sent to everyone in the office. No, that's not really an ethical use of email. An angry message to the company about a new policy change. No, that's not really an ethical use of email. You may be upset about something, but it's not proper to email everybody in the office about that you're upset about it. An email to home about a tornado watch. Yeah, that would be okay. I don't think there's a company out there that wouldn't think that would be okay if you were to email home and let your family know there's a tornado watch out that you heard about. An email to the office looking for money for a son's baseball team trip. No, most companies would frown on that. They're probably going to ask you to just set something out in the mailroom or something like that instead of using the company resource of emailing it out. This is an example of a proper format of an email. You would have, let's say you're going to email an instructor for a class. You would put their email address in the to box, and then the subject is short and sweet, trip to Italy. It's very clear to see what that email is about. You would put the person's name in the first line. Just like a lot of other correspondence, it's all at the left margin, single space the paragraphs, double space between the paragraphs, and then at the bottom you would have your name or the sender's name if you're sending it on behalf of a boss or someone.